Welcome to the first episode in a Legendarium series about the Anarchy. In this first installment, Food for Sea Monsters, we will talk about how the long and successful reign of Henry I was thrown into jeopardy by the premature death of his only son and heir. Henry Beauclerc, the youngest surviving son of William the Conqueror, did not have an easy path to power. He likely murdered his oldest brother, William Rufus, in the New Forest, and then defeated and imprisoned another brother named Duke Robert of Normandy. When Duke Robert tried to escape in 1118, Henry put out his eyes with a red-hot iron. After all these killings, he ruled his father's old realm of Normandy and England, the latter governed by a French-speaking aristocracy made up of Norman adventurers who often married English women. Upon taking full power in 1106, he did something strange for a medieval king. He made peace. For 14 years, he waged no wars and turned his attention towards bettering the tax system, managing the aristocracy, and raising his son William Adelin, born in 1103. Though the chroniclers described William Adelin as a prince so pampered that he would be destined to be food for the fire, he ruled England successfully during his father's absence, of course with guidance from Henry's advisors. The only other contender for the throne would have been William Clito, the son of the imprisoned Robert Curthose. After imprisoning his brother, King Henry put his nephew William Clito in the care of Helias of Saint-Saëns, Count of Arques, who married one of Henry's female relations. William Clito remained in their custody for the next 4 years. In 1110, Henry sent for his nephew. Helias' household concealed the boy from Henry's men and then smuggled both William Clito and Helias to Normandy, where both became fugitive lords. They traveled from one court to another, trying to find support for a war against Henry. And in 1118, the barons of Normandy grew weary of King Henry's too efficient taxmen, and Clito's current host, Baldwin VII of Flanders, led them in an uprising. It failed when Baldwin fell from his horse and died, which proved a terrible setback to his political career. By 1119, the First Norman Rebellion ended in inglorious failure, and William Clito fled to France with his guardian Helias. In 1119, King Henry betrothed his son William Adelin to Matilda of Anjou, despite her being only 8 years old at the time. The betrothal secured the borders of Normandy against further attacks by William Clito's supporters, among others. In 1120, William Adelin became honorary Duke of Normandy and had to pay homage to his liege lord, King Louis VI, also called Louis the Fat. Disdaining the idea of kneeling before a foreign king, he persuaded Louis to take the homage of his son, William Adelin, instead. And after traveling to Paris, William Adelin rejoined his father in a Norman port called Barfleur. King Henry had his own arrangements to sail home, but William Adelin took the offer of Thomas Fitzstephen, whose father Stephen had captained the vessel which took the Conqueror across the English Channel. In a gesture of royal continuity, Fitzstephen offered to take William Adelin in La Blanche Nef, or the White Ship, a vessel famous across the Channel coast for its beauty and speed. While Henry sailed ahead on his own ship, William's party drank their supplies of French wine as they boarded. After some encouragement, they convinced the crew to partake as well. According to lore, the inebriates refused a blessing from a monk before the White Ship left port. The drunken revelers urged Fitzstephen to reach England before King Henry, and the inebriated Fitzstephen agreed. The sailors paid little heed to the dangerous rocks around Gateville, and the ship suddenly struck a submerged rock known as the Quille Boeuf. It began to sink into the freezing water, and panic ensued as the passengers tried to reach safety. William Adelin found his way onto a small lifeboat, but after getting aboard, he saw his beloved half-sister Matilda floundering. William Adelin ordered his small, overcrowded vessel back, and he grabbed Matilda. But in doing so, he allowed many other desperate men to scramble onto his lifeboat. It was unable to bear the weight, and it sank, killing everyone on board. In the words of one chronicler at the time, William Adelin became food for monsters of the deep. Another chronicler wrote that Fitzstephen survived and came up to the surface, but upon learning about the fate of William Adelin, he allowed himself to drown rather than face the wrath of the fearsome and grief-stricken Henry. It is said that after hearing the news of his son's death, the king never smiled again. King Henry had remarried after the death of his first wife Matilda in 1118, but the union between the 50-year-old king and the young Adeliza of Louvain produced no children. Only one 18-year-old daughter from his first marriage, yet another Matilda, remained. King Henry did nothing to improve the situation when he refused to return the dowry that came with Margaret of Anjou to her father, Count Fulk V of Anjou. Furious, Count Fulk instead betrothed his daughter Margaret to the exiled William Clito and gave him the county of Maine, located between Anjou and Normandy, as a dowry. Both Count Fulk and King Louis intended for Maine to become a base for William Clito to wage war against King Henry of England. In 1124, the Norman barons rebelled for a second time against the now heirless King Henry I. With men and money from the French king and Count Fulk, William Clito joined the Norman rebels. Together, they began laying siege to Henry's castles in Normandy. With William Clito now the only surviving heir to the throne, he had the strongest claim to the succession. But during the summer of 1128, William Clito laid siege to Castle Aist. On July 12, 1128, he suffered an arrow wound in the arm which turned gangrenous. He died on July 28th, with Helias of Saint Son at his bedside, ever faithful. His guardian had been with him for much of his life, and he remained so in death. Though this removed a threat to King Henry's power, it also removed the only other heir to the throne. Now King Henry would have to find another. That wraps things up for this episode of The Legendarium. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, press like. If you want to see more, press subscribe. And if you've got anything to say, let me know in the comments section. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope that you have a great rest of the day.